What's your favorite typo in a fanfic? I stumbled upon this typo the other day and thought it was pretty funny. The table on Blank's nightstand is on, casting the room in a homey glow. Have you ever found a typo that made you laugh? Typo? What, you don't put your glowing tables on nightstands? That was defiantly not a typo. The human mind is so fascinating. I love that so many of us, myself included, thought the typo was homey because our brains just autofilled the word lamp from context. It really is fascinating. English isn't my first language, so I didn't really autocorrect to lamp, but I focused on table, and then it said nightstand, and I was like, wait, why so much furniture? I didn't even notice either until I went to the comments and was like, I'm a dumbass. It really does go to show that even if you have some goofs with spelling, punctuation, and grammar, it might not even be noticed by most people if the story's good enough or it's not very common. We really are our own worst critics, aren't we? Heartbreaking. The only person on this whole godforsaken website to use homey correctly instead of changing it to homely fucked up the rest of the sentence. Credit to Reddit user Anti-Lisa for starting this thread on the AO3 subreddit. And let's go read some typos. The scene could be really angsty, and this one line would take me the fuck out. What I imagine when someone says I'm bawling my eyes out instead of I'm bawling my eyes out. She bawled uncontrollably, unable to help even herself as she scored dunk after dunk, onlookers stuck in awe. He fingered his thing blanket. He... what? Quilt-ridden for guilt-ridden. First of all, I love this question. Second, I haven't read that many fics on AO3 yet, but these are the ones I remember. She was barley conscious. The sweat dripped down his chest. He let out a bready sigh. He let out a bready sigh. I still wonder what kind of sigh it was meant to be. I'm thinking probably breathy sigh. But a bready sigh, one that comes with a yeast infection. Nobody's mentioned the waist versus waist one yet. Especially in certain scenes, it makes me burst out laughing. Gently tracing my finger at your waist. He cobbed instead of he sobbed. Nothing like a good corn on the cob to set an emotional mood. My personal favorite typo was birth bath for bird bath. I almost left it in. Not a fic, but I read a typo in a roleplay where I wrote, killed him in the bathroom, when it was meant to be kissed. Not the nicest place to die. R.I.P. I guess, thanks dyslexia. Viola instead of voila is a personal favorite of mine from back in the olden days. It lives in my mind rent-free. The mental image it conjures kills me. Presenting something to someone, going, and Viola! And a Viola pops in out of nowhere and promptly disappears into the ether upon finishing the presentation. Spell check failed me and turned a character who was supposed to be the Grand Duke into a Grand Duck instead. I have a little crocheted duck in a top hat and tie on my computer desk to remind me of it. Somebody was in the throes of passion, and their body was quacking. I've seen a fic before where the couple was having sex, and the woman fell back painting from exertion. Break out the easel, baby. I once wrote a line referring to someone basking in their partner's body heat, published it, until a few days later, my fiancé told me I'd written body feet instead. I wanted to shrivel up and die. Years ago, I read multiple fics by different authors where ministrations was written as menstruations. I was reading this really emotive supernatural one-shot, very well written, and then about 2/3 of the way through the story, they misspelled Bobby Singer's name as Booby. Totally took me out. The scream I scrumped. I see poured over P-O-U-R instead of poured over P-O-R-E pretty frequently, and I always imagine the character awkwardly draping themselves over the text they're poring over. It was a comment rather than the fic itself, but it said, "Nice first chapter. I am intrigued." I haven't been able to stop saying it since. It's been literal years. I think even my siblings have started saying it. Someone recently posted a comment they'd received that was very complimentary until the commenter added, "Your writing is subpar." After scratching their head for a moment, the author finally concluded that they'd meant superb. Not so much a typo as my brain short-circuiting and me not noticing, but I once randomly had a character who was in a suit for a very formal event switch to wearing jeans because I was so focused on getting to write the next part that I forgot. I once forgot to add a whole section back in while editing, with the end result being that I implied Miles Edgeworth went to go speak with a witness while still wearing his pajamas. Someone feeling pickles of unease. This had me crying laughing at the late hour I read this at. A sudden sharp stink erupts against your ass. What could they have possibly meant by this? I'm sure they meant sting, but that really just, it sounds like an aggressive fart. Oh, finally, I took this picture years ago. And find ingredients to make a Slav to quicken his healing. I'm always a fan of the classic viscous versus vicious. The oddest line that stumped me, "I hid it in my room," he milked. My best guess is that someone didn't quite understand milking it for all it's worth, i.e. dramatic over-exaggeration. Otherwise, I have no idea what the author was trying to say. Mewled? Not quite a typo, but someone had clearly changed their mind partway through one fic because the hedge had a fresh coat of paint. The mental image of a box hedge and a thick coat of white gloss was amazing. I read a Persona 3/My Hero Academia crossover a while back where one of the villains from the Persona side said, "You, Bart!" A serious scene completely ruined by one typo. I haven't wheezed so hard at a typo in a while. Villain got told to eat my shorts once and hasn't gotten over it. The stakes were high. There are weed brownies. Why not upgrade that to something refined, like steak served with fine herbs and cooked in cannabis oil? I read a college sports AU where meat was constantly spelled meat with an A every single time. So the first couple of times one of the characters said they were going to the meet, I was like, funny typo. But it just kept happening, so I started wondering if the fic was foreshadowing that the football team was actually some kind of crazy cannibal cult. They weren't, but it would have been funny. I see she removed her heels with an A instead of heels with two E's every so often. The best one I ever wrote was open foot, insert mouth. The person who caught that was immediately drafted to be my second beta reader. One my beta reader always makes fun of me for is, he ran a hand through his hand. I wrote dialogue ox when I meant dialogue box, and keep on laughing every time I remember it, imagining this extra communicative type of ox. The email that tore out of X's throat. And the sex scene where grapes was swapped for grasp, so I thought grapes was an unflattering euphemism for testicles. Rouge versus Rogue is one that drives me bonkers. Yes, the character's occupation is cheek blush. Yes, I see. Yes, this is a skill issue on my part. Chicken beat. I think they meant chicken breast, but my friends and I still use this. I once read a fic that was pretty grammatically sound for most of it, until we got to several passages that were supposed to have the word beard, but every single one of them was bread. Now that it seems the comments have solved the mystery of the luminescent table, here are some of my favorite typos I've collected over the years. The boy breathed the hoarse whisper. Tim said hoarsely. Peter sniffled, his ears welling up with tears. Bilar roared in frustration. Hey, it's Oki. The slave isn't doing anything to help. They meant salve. Their eyes almost falling out of their eyes. A more idyllic meet-cute way. And which reminded him of the scene in Alice in Wonderland. I am now seriously considering writing a crack fic using all of these. Big thank you to my Patreon members, my little ruse, Nebulotic Vexen, Dunker42, John Huang, Laser Scorpio, Mintara, Somnophobic Danny, Savage Otters, Valsy, Kestrel, Dragonborn Canid, Angie Ender, and Sky Cow. Thank you so much for your extra support on Patreon, it means the world to me. Always wishing you guys the very best, and thanks for being here. You rock! And the same goes to my YouTube channel members, my mini-ruse, Foxstar Killer, Rainy Cant, Siggy, Those Midnight Daydreams, Snout, and Some Ice Ice. Thank you so much for your extra support. I'm so glad to have you be a part of my YouTube channel. I'm sure you're all lovely people, and I'm very thankful to have you around. Keep on smiling. And thank you to everyone else for watching. Let me know what are some funny typos you've seen or written yourself. I wish I could give my own examples, but every time I make some funny typo, I'm always like, oh, that's so funny, I should take a screenshot so I remember it. And then I never do. That's a problem, I've got to start doing that. But that's enough for me for now, I gotta go. So, thank you for watching, and having a good chuckle with me. Chuckle, giggle, laugh, snort, tee-hee. And I hope I'll see you on some other video.